Good morning. It's Michael Berger with Cooper Sotheby's International Realty and Broker Insights, Texas Broker Insights. This is the second or third time I've tried to shoot this video. First time the audio was just terrible, so I scrapped it, starting over. And second time, I have a screen protector on my phone, and the edge of it is right at the camera line. So I shot the whole video, and there's an edge that made everything a little fuzzy. So I deleted that one. This is the third attempt at getting an absolutely exciting, fantastic, information-filled video for you. And today's topic, what we're going to talk about is, and the title is going to be something like Buyer Concerned About Foundation? Call an engineer, not a salesman. And so I like to give videos that are particularly applicable to current day buyers and sellers situations. Buyers put properties under contract, they get their general property inspector in there, and from there, the inspector may recommend further evaluation, whether they say, get a HVAC guy in here to look at the air differentials, get an engineer in here to look at the foundation. Sometimes when people hear that, they default to wanting to call a foundation company to find out what the issues are. And I have notes over here. I'm wearing my glasses, so I've changed the whole scenery, trying to reduce glare on the glasses and trying to have the computer in front of me without too much glare from there. So we got windows, we got computer, but I think it's going to work out perfectly. Okay, so one of the things that we have to understand when it comes to foundations in Texas is that there are primarily two types of foundations. There's pier and beam, and then there's slab. Pier and beam were used or built to residential properties probably from the beginning of time all the way to probably 1955, 1960. And after 1955, after 1960, the predominant foundations used were slab foundations. And when the inspector goes in, he's going to look around and he may recommend further evaluation if he sees cracks in the drywall near windows or doors, doors that stick, if there's any slight character sloping in the floors. And it's important to have somebody come in and look at that if those are of concern. So why do you not want to start with the foundation company? And when buyers see these cracks, they often call the foundation company first. And that sounds reasonable, it sounds understandable, but the foundation companies are in the business of selling repairs. They are invited in, they come in and they talk about how they can fix the problems that the buyer has brought to their attention for $10,000, $20,000, $25,000. And that might not even be necessary because a foundation company likes to give, they give a solution, but it's not necessarily a diagnosis. And just like you wouldn't go to a surgeon before seeing your doctor, it's the exact same thing. You want the foundation to be diagnosed. So we recommend, as licensed professionals who represent the buyers, that if they have concerns, we recommend they do not go to a foundation company first. We recommend that they go to an engineer first. And what an engineer does is they'll come in and they will take evaluations of elevations of the floor. They'll look at how the house sits on the lot. They'll look at the drainage, the sloping, tree roots. They'll check for consistent or differential settlement, and they'll identify cracks as to whether or not they are cosmetic or structural. And then at the very end, after they go in and do their evaluation, they're going to provide a engineer's report with their seal, with the findings and any recommendations, if there are any, to either stabilize the foundation or to bring the foundation within tolerances. When the engineer comes in, they're going to charge probably $700 to $1,000. That is the service fee that they charge for performing the duty. But one of the things that is peace of mind about the expenditure is that when they come in, they do the evaluation, they provide the report with a seal, then they walk out the door. They have no vested interest in the repairs. They have no vested interest in a continued relationship. Their goal is to provide information and to sail off into the sunset. The foundation company, when they come in, they provide the evaluation, not a report, and it generally involves some level of repair, because if not, they wasted their time for going over to the property in the first place. So the point is, when you're dealing with an engineer's report, you're dealing with facts, not opinions. And the reason that this matters to Texas buyers is that movement in Texas, it happens. All foundations move. And whether it's a movement going on due to seasonal weather shifts, or if there is a failure in the foundation, that can only be determined by a structural engineer. So the sequence is, the buyer puts the property under contract, the buyer gets the home inspected for any possible issues. The general property inspector is like a general practitioner. They come in, they evaluate, and then they say, hey, here's the issues. If you want further evaluation, I would call specialists in these fields. At that point, the buyer would call a structural engineer for an evaluation. And then they would use the report as a guide for their next steps in either negotiating with a seller or getting the foundation company over there and saying, this is what the structural engineer says, and I need a bid for this as part of the buyer's due diligence. And when they have an actual evaluation, an actual report from the engineer, then they can have 2 or 3 foundation companies come over. They can provide the same report to all 2, all 3, and then each of those are comparing apples to apples, instead of a foundation company coming in and saying, oh, we think we need 7 piers over here. And then the second foundation company comes in without an engineer's report and says, we could probably get away with putting 7 piers over here and lifting the property with shims by a 1/4 inch on these 2 parts. And suddenly you're not dealing with apples to apples. So the foundation companies, they really need the engineer's report to have a clear understanding as to what the scope of work will be. So let's take a quick break and go to the mortgage moment and see what Tom Romanello says about market rates. Welcome back to the Mortgage Moment, brought to you by Tom Romanello of Legacy Mutual Mortgage. He provided these numbers yesterday for today's video, yesterday being November 5th, 2025. 30-year conventional, 6.38, 15-year at 5.86, and FHA is sitting flat at 6%. VA 30-year, 6.1, and jumbo slightly higher, as would be expected, at 6.4. Tom is a great guy. He's been our mortgage lender of choice for the past number of years. He's taken care of our clients for years, and he's helped us out personally with our investment properties, and he and his team are just wonderful. They are licensed to lend in 44 states, and he's been a practitioner for 25 years. So if you have questions about the mortgage industry, interest rates, things like that, you can reach out to Tom. His information is below, and he will take great care of you. And welcome back. So I hope you've enjoyed today's presentation dealing with structural engineers versus foundation companies. I think foundation companies are great. They are good at their job, and their job is fixing foundations. Their job is not providing evaluations or engineer reports about the condition of a property. Leave comments below. Give me video ideas about what is important to you as a buyer or seller in the state of Texas. If you're in Texas and you're making a move, whether you're in Dallas or Abilene or San Antonio, reach out to me. I can connect you with a wonderful agent who specializes in your area that you're looking to either move to or where you're looking to sell a property. Between now and then, you have a great day.